The weekly message of the United Church of Christ of Hummelstown, Pennsylvania, a podcast version of our worship service. To learn more and listen to the rest of the worship, check us out online at hummelstownucc.org.
I don't think many of you will be surprised that this week's story doesn't start off as one of my all-time favorites. Maybe it's the mansplaining in this retelling of Rebecca's story at the well, which the lectionary cut out all of Rebecca's actual action. She's standing right there and could tell in her own words. Or maybe it's that her value is immediately blessed as the bearer of nations, myriads of descendants, right? Not for her own personhood or her gifts. May you, our sister, become thousands of myriads. May our offspring gain possession of the gates of their foes. Or maybe that at its heart, it's about the purchase of a woman, a family member for this chosen child, this chosen son. There is a lot here that hits pretty differently, depending on how you grew up, who raised you. And so we hear this story anew. The cultural markers in this story clearly point to a worldview that is not mine, that is not many of ours, and not one that I would want to recommit to either. When you read through the entire story of Rebecca's call into the family of Abraham and Isaac, there are pieces that stand out to us as unjust for us now, but which would have been expected for this ancient world. And there are pieces we miss as remarkable that seem like givens to us. Rebecca's actions are admirable. This I am grateful to claim as a part of our heritage. The servant repeatedly ensures that he is not going to be required to take this girl hostage, both to his employer and to God, and for this we can be very grateful, that this story does not revolve around the stealing of women. And Rebecca does get to have some agency and consent to her future, and this is critically important. The entire story, the promise of God to Abraham to give him descendants through Isaac only, who she will bear. The grand plan of cosmic salvation and investment is upon her shoulders, and she goes forth with a commitment and a strong essence of acceptance. For all that Abraham has been the bearer of this promise, it is never he who bears the descendants, right? This section of the story comes notably upon the recent death of Isaac's mother, Abraham's wife, Sarah. In the chapter before, we hear not how or why she dies, but that Abraham does his best to honor her memory and purchases a cave in a hill to bury her in. The story jumps from the taking of Isaac as a youth to be sacrificed, to Sarah's death, to this hearing now of Isaac as an adult and his father's search for Isaac's wife. We know very little about what Isaac may have thought, but then throughout the entirety of his life, we know very little about what Isaac thought or did. He's pretty clearly a supporting character to this overall narrative. We hear him question his father's potential actions, but then little else. We're told he loves Rebecca, in part because she comes in to relieve some of his grief at the loss of his mother, but he's never a central character. And next week, we'll skip ahead to the lives of his children, their stories. Isaac isn't the one who hears God's call. Isaac isn't the one who accepts a call to the journey. He's just there, a child on the journey. And truthfully, Rebecca doesn't actually hear God's call either. Maybe one of the generational changes in this faith story is how the interaction with the divine perpetuates itself generation after generation. Father Abraham hears God speak clearly and directly. So Abraham calls a servant and tells him to do the job. The servant wants some guarantee he's going to do the right thing, and so he asks God in prayer, invites God to make it happen. And Rebecca is the one who acts in the way the servant has asked for without God's direct intervention. Rebekah does not hear a call from God either directly or as an answer to prayer. Instead, we hear about Rebekah's generosity, her action. The servant asks for a sign. And so he is offered water and water to his camels. And not even knowing that this is the required sign, Rebekah does offer water to the thirsty. Not just a sip of water to the human, as requested. She offers enough water for all 10 camels to get their fill. At 20 to 30 gallons of water apiece, that's a heavy burden to commit to. Can you just see Rebekah running back and forth, filling the trough with a couple gallons, and then coming back to fill the trough and realize that it's already empty? If you do the math, and she, in her jug, her pitcher, is 2 gallons, a gallon, that's 200 trips. If she's carrying 5 gallons, that's still over 40 trips. It's not a small action. Rebekah is generous. And so she responds generously. Generosity, I feel, is one of the great markers of faith, of our best humanity. It's a gift to see each moment through the eyes of generosity, to see the opportunities we are presented with in life that arise out of our challenges. Rebekah could have turned away at any point in this traveling with the water, but her generosity triumphs. And she does it through the simplicity of water. When we baptize, we recognize how God moves through water to connect and spread this unearned, unmerited gift of grace to each person in the community. Water is vital for life, for all beings. Plant, animal, even bacteria need water as part of their makeup. So it is in water that we create meaning for the pervasive attention and love that God spreads everywhere, to everything. In committing to the watering of the beasts of burden, Rebekah commits herself to a wider circle than just a human family. She recognizes the web that sustains us all. For us to learn something from Rebekah, it would certainly be in line with Jesus' words from last week's worship. If anyone gives a cup of cool water to these little ones, that person will not lose their reward. The gift of water to the stranger in a dry and thirsty land is a holy act, found in both Testaments and in so many other places too. Several years ago, I was able to be part of a planning team for a congregational art exhibit based on the photography of the U.S. southwestern border. It was a beauty, and it was down in these deserts that these photographers would take pictures of life, of human life, of the border wall, of all aspects to understand in a much more holistic way what really happens down there. In the desert, there is a daily fear of survival, all based around water. No amount of water personally carried could keep a person running through that landscape. And while animals have adapted over time to help with the heat and the low water supplies, they stay put too. The plant life holds water even more preciously and sparingly. We humans have not and cannot adapt as well to those conditions. We are not made to be desert dwellers. So as humanitarian efforts on both sides of the border, there are organizations, churches, individuals who place water throughout the desert, some of them putting out over 600 gallons a week to ensure that humane migration is possible. As people leave devastated economies in search of work that will enable them to send money back to families, they dare to cross the great deserts of the Southwest. These water stations ensure that the harsh conditions are not a death sentence. These migrants are not enemies, no matter the political terms used. As Christians, we are called to see them as sojourners and companions, not with antagonism. And so, into that desert, we ask, how would Rebecca have responded? What are we told of her? I believe that we are told of her that she would find a way to authentically help those in desperate need with whatever skills and gifts were at her disposal. And we ask, how would Jesus respond? And we know that answer already. A cup of cool water. Or even in today's reading, come to me, all you who are carrying heavy burdens. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Come and rest. These are Jesus' words to those weighed down by life and burden, to those who thirst. Come and take his work upon yourself, and in that work you will find rest. These are not cheap words, but profound statements of connection in and through our days. If we're willing to make the commitment, to join the family, to walk this journey of faith. So how do the rest of us exercise hospitality to the stranger? Do we offer water? Do we draw from our lavish wells? Do we seek to address the conditions that make for thirst? Rebecca runs headlong into this new life with vigor. Certainly the way has been long and hot on that return voyage, but when she sees this chosen child, this son, that all of it hangs upon, she has chosen without seeing. And when she sees the result of her generosity, she begins a new phase of her life. She bonds herself to this new way, this new stranger, and all that will come. When we offer hospitality, when we make a commitment to generosity as a way of being, we gain a new path in life too. Hospitality to the stranger results in marriage, a bonding, a blessing. If this is what happens for us when we offer water to the strangers in our midst, what joining together of cultures and people might follow. In these mixtures, there is a promise of blessing still. Rebecca's bravery, her resolute determination are markers on our faith journey of what it takes to offer hospitality that overflows to the newcomer and forges a new path. In her honor, we commit to the path of Jesus that calls us ever forward, to offer water in new ways, to see the person struggling and to make the call. In that commitment, the symbolic children of blessing, friendship, connection, unity are born. We are more human when we can honestly offer hospitality to the stranger, and we are more faithful when that hospitality is overwhelmingly generous. God needs our hands and hearts and bodies to offer water to the camels and the thirsty servants of our world. God needs our minds to seek out the stranger that remains hidden among us. While God may speak directly to us, or through others, through prayer, or in silence, we also see God calling us through our natures, through our gifts. We must ever seek that voice, because God calls us because of who we are, through the way we are and the choices we make. May you, our sister, become thousands of myriads. May your offspring gain possession of the gates of their foes. Those foes for whom we will carry their burdens together, making them friends, ensuring a cosmic peace, a cosmic family. Our prayer of transformation this morning was this: Spirit of God, you are always among us, and yet at times we don't notice or get caught up in our judgments. Not recognizing you in the stranger on the street or the stranger in me who does not do the things I want, but rather the things I hate. Perhaps we thought our certainty would keep us safe or ignorance would keep us pain-free, but you show us the way of trust, and awareness is what paves the path of peace. Forgive us and help us, O God, by the power of grace and connection. Together, we raise the burden so that the work can be shared and the burden can be light. In water, we are joined together with Rebecca and the generosity that we have inside of us. Amen.
This has been the weekly worship from the United Church of Christ of Hummelstown. No matter who you are, or where you are, on life's journey, you are welcome here. Join us online or in person, at 104 East Main Street in Hummelstown, Sundays at 10:30 a.m. Thank you for listening today. We look forward to your fellowship.